A single document, signed in Islamabad, temporarily stopped one of the world's most dangerous confrontations. For a brief moment, the United States and Iran stepped back from the edge of war. The missiles stopped. Oil prices stabilized. Global markets breathed a sigh of relief. But now, that fragile agreement is beginning to crack. Both sides accuse each other of violating its terms. Trust is disappearing. And Pakistan, alongside Qatar, is racing against time to rescue negotiations before the region slides back toward another dangerous confrontation. If diplomacy fails, the consequences won't be limited to the Middle East. They could affect global energy, international trade, and the balance of power across the world. This is the story of the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding and why its collapse could change everything. Only months ago, tensions between Washington and Tehran reached one of their highest levels in years. Military strikes and retaliatory attacks were imminent. Threats against shipping routes grew. The possibility of a wider regional war became increasingly real. Every new incident increased fears that the conflict could spread beyond the Gulf. With billions of dollars in global trade passing through the Strait of Hormuz, even a short disruption carried enormous risks. World leaders understood one thing: a direct U.S.-Iran war would affect everyone. That is why intense diplomacy quietly began behind closed doors. Unexpectedly, Pakistan emerged as one of the countries trying to prevent disaster. The Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding was never meant to be a permanent peace treaty. Instead, it served as a temporary framework. Its objectives were clear: reduce military tensions, reopen diplomatic communication, protect freedom of navigation, prevent further escalation. For several weeks, the agreement appeared to work. Military activity declined. Regional leaders welcomed the pause. Oil markets stabilized. Many believed the worst had been avoided. But peace built on trust is fragile. The Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding once stood as a beacon of hope for regional stability. Today, that promise hangs by a very thin diplomatic thread. Behind closed doors, the trust between Tehran and Washington has fractured, leaving a dangerous void where cooperation and dialogue once stood. Official statements are now issued with growing skepticism. In Tehran, officials express deep concern over unmet commitments and rising external pressures. Meanwhile, in Washington, high-stakes meetings reflect a hardening stance as diplomatic patience wears thin across the halls of power. The golden hour of diplomacy has passed. The warmth of initial handshakes has been replaced by the cold, biting shadow of mutual suspicion. Like a house of cards, the delicate framework of the MoU is collapsing under the immense weight of shifting geopolitical rivalries. Across the region, red zones of conflict glow on the map, signaling the dangerous consequences of a failed dialogue and broken promises. At the heart of this geopolitical storm lies Pakistan, a nation uniquely positioned at the crossroads of Iran, Afghanistan, and the Gulf states. Pakistan's geography makes it a vital bridge, connecting diverse interests while bearing the brunt of any regional instability that occurs. Islamabad has refused to remain a passive observer. The Prime Minister's recent visits to Tehran underscore a desperate strategic push for de-escalation. In Doha, Pakistani diplomats continue to engage in high-level mediation, seeking common ground in an increasingly polarized and fractured global landscape. The stakes are not just political. They are profoundly economic. The flow of global trade through these maritime routes depends entirely on peace. From vital oil pipelines to bustling South Asian economic hubs, the prosperity of millions is tied to the success of regional diplomacy. A total collapse of the MoU could trigger a domino effect, destabilizing global markets and threatening international energy security for years to come. Pakistan's strategic role is clear: to act as both a buffer and a mediator in a world that often seems destined for confrontation. As the sun sets over Islamabad, the light of diplomacy remains fragile, yet it persists through these tireless and necessary mediation efforts. The path forward is uncertain, but the mission remains vital for the world. We must keep the dialogue alive to prevent a wider catastrophe. While Pakistan works publicly to maintain dialogue, Qatar continues its familiar role behind the scenes. For years, Doha has hosted negotiations involving some of the world's most difficult conflicts. Its ability to communicate with different regional and international actors makes it a valuable mediator. Even when official talks appear frozen, back-channel diplomacy often continues. That may be exactly what is happening now. The biggest concern is not simply another exchange of military strikes. It is the possibility of a wider regional crisis. The Strait of Hormuz remains one of the world's most strategic waterways. Around 1/5 of globally traded oil passes through it. Any disruption could raise global fuel prices, increase shipping costs, affect inflation worldwide, and trigger volatility in financial markets. Military miscalculations could also draw additional regional powers into the crisis. History has shown how quickly local tensions can become international emergencies. Despite the setbacks, diplomacy has not ended. Pakistan continues engaging regional leaders. Qatar remains an active mediator. International actors are encouraging dialogue instead of confrontation. Neither Washington nor Tehran appears eager for a full-scale war. That leaves space, however narrow, for negotiations to continue. The challenge is rebuilding trust. Without trust, agreements become fragile. With trust, even longtime rivals can keep talking. The Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding was never guaranteed to succeed, but its survival could influence the future of the Middle East. Pakistan's latest diplomatic efforts highlight an important reality. Even in times of rising tensions, diplomacy remains one of the few alternatives to conflict. Whether these negotiations succeed or collapse will shape not only regional security, but also the global economy. The coming weeks may determine whether the Middle East moves toward renewed dialogue or another dangerous escalation. If you enjoyed this documentary, subscribe for more in-depth geopolitical analysis, and tell us in the comments, can Pakistan and Qatar save the peace process, or is the Islamabad MoU already beyond repair?